They're not the biggest falls in the world, not by a long shot. But they're certainly among the most famous. Niagara Falls attracts millions of visitors from around the world every year. People come for the history. They come for the romance. They come for the spectacular view. But some people just can't get close enough. This is What If, and here's what would happen if you fell into Niagara Falls. There are 3 different waterfalls that make up Niagara Falls, but the one that gets all the attention is the Canadian Horseshoe Falls. The Canadian Horseshoe Falls is about 57 meters tall and 670 meters wide. Water rushes over its edge at a peak speed of 109 kilometers per hour, dumping about 2.8 million liters of water over its edge every second. Considering its height, its speed, and its raw natural power, it's hard to believe that anyone could survive a trip over the falls. And yet, it's been done several times. Was it skill? Or was it luck? How do you survive a fall into Niagara Falls? The first person to survive a trip over Niagara Falls was Annie Edson Taylor. In 1921, on her 63rd birthday, she crawled into an oak and iron barrel and floated right over the edge of the falls. Taylor performed this stunt for money and fame, but she didn't earn much for her feat. Nonetheless, daredevils seeking to follow in her footsteps were not deterred. In 1928, for example, Jean Lussier went over Niagara Falls in a 182-centimeter rubber and steel ball lined with 32 inner tubes. Lussier survived the fall and spent the rest of his life selling souvenirs to tourists. Not all the daredevils were as lucky as Taylor and Lussier. In fact, of the 16 people who've tried to beat the falls, just a little more than half have lived to tell the tale. To date, only 5 people have survived an unprotected fall down the Canadian Horseshoe Falls. The first and youngest was Roger Woodward in 1960. He was only 7 years old at the time when a boating accident caused him to be swept overboard and over the edge of the falls. Woodward was rescued shortly after and made a full recovery after spending just 3 days in the hospital being treated for a concussion. Today, that event is still referred to as the Miracle at Niagara. Most rescuers and experts at Niagara consider unprotected survival stories to be blind luck. But there are some strategies that might just save your life if, for any reason, you find yourself hurtling 109 kilometers per hour in freezing cold water towards the edge of a 57-meter drop. The first thing you need to remember just before you go over is to take a really deep breath. When you reach the bottom, there will be so much water swirling around you, not to mention the intense pressure of the water falling from above that you could easily suffocate. So, taking a big gulp of air before your fall could buy you some time. You'll also want to take precautions to protect your head. If you can, orient yourself so that you fall feet first. Then, you'll want to wrap your arms around your head with your elbows over your nose and clench your eyes and mouth shut as tightly as possible. In fact, you should tense up all your muscles and bring your legs together before impact, making your body as watertight as possible. You're already incredibly lucky if you survive the fall, but that doesn't mean your ordeal is over. The water temperature below the falls is around the freezing mark, which gives you about 15 minutes to get out of there before hypothermia kicks in. You'll likely be badly bruised and terribly disoriented, but if you can stay calm and focused, you might just be one of the lucky few to survive a fall into Niagara Falls. Of course, the best way to survive is to pay attention to the warning signs and respect the safety rails. After all, the falls are huge. Do you really need to risk your life to get a closer look? Then again, people have survived crazier falls. Can you believe anyone could survive falling out of an airplane? Well, that's a story for another What If. Air pressure, so it feels as if there's a lot of air behind you doesn't fill in fast enough, creating a sort of vacuum. The difference in the air pressure below you and the air pressure above you creates drag or air resistance. When the force exerted by this air resistance equals the force of gravity, you've reached terminal velocity and you'll be moving at a constant speed. Falling from 30,000 feet, you're likely to reach terminal velocity at 190 kilometers per hour. Of course, your actual terminal velocity will depend on your size and weight. The heavier you are, the faster you'll fall. But if you spread your arms and legs out wide, you can increase the amount of drag exerted on you. That might slow you down a bit. You'd enjoy it a lot more if you had a parachute, though. Parachutes are lightweight and very wide. A parachute would cut your falling speed from 45 meters per second down to about 5 meters per second. If you don't have a parachute, it would help to know where to land. Look for somewhere that's soft so there's a chance of breaking your fall. A lot of people who have fallen from airplanes and lived have survived due to landing in deep snow or being cushioned by trees or bushes. Unfortunately, a tree can either be really good or really, really bad. If you don't see anything soft below, your best bet is to try to land feet first with your legs together, slightly bent. When you hit the ground, you'll likely crumple to the side or back. This is known as the 5-point impact sequence, and while it will be incredibly painful, it will save everything above your waist, mainly your vital organs and your brain. Of course, these are all just recommendations. Tips to make the best out of a bad and severely unlucky situation. Humans aren't really built for 9,144-meter free falls, and yet, every year, we seem to achieve something that we thought was impossible. So, before your next flight, you might want to pack a 4-leaf clover, just in case. And for more ways to survive freak accidents, paranormal activities, or apocalyptic events, just keep watching What If?